Hi, welcome back. Today we are talking about internal controls. They are the processes, policies, sometimes technological solutions that we put into place to protect our company. Okay, so today we're talking about the purpose of internal controls. Why do we have these? What purpose do they serve? The first is to protect assets. And this is probably the thing that we most often think about, right? So protect our assets from being stolen or from being destroyed either on purpose or an accident. This is going to include things like putting locks on the doors. When you go into a convenience store, you know, they have the cigarettes and the alcohol back behind them because that way you actually have to talk to someone to get it. You can't just shoplift it, slip it in your pocket. Not that I think you would do that, but people do that. So that is how we protect our assets. We might also have policies in place that maybe say you can only drive, if you're driving a company vehicle, you have to follow the speed limit, okay? And that policy helps to protect the asset from extra wear and tear. All right, the second purpose is to ensure reliable accounting. And this one's really important. A lot of these controls are within our accounting department. So we may say that, you know, if I prepare journal entries, then my supervisor has to approve them before they get posted. Doing things like when we do a variance analysis, which you're going to get to do when we get to the end of this semester and do financial statement analysis, that can let us know if there is a problem with our accounting. For example, back when I was the Canada controller, so I was in charge of the accounting for our Canadian subsidiary, I would do a variance analysis and I would just look for things that looked weird that I might want to investigate just to make sure my books were right. And sure enough, one month, my revenue and accounts receivable spiked way up and I thought, that seems a little weird. So I went and ran some additional reports and found out that an $800,000 order had been booked twice by mistake. So if I hadn't done that variance analysis and the subsequent research, I never would have found that, and I would have misstated my revenue and my assets by $800,000, which would have been very bad. Okay. Promote operating efficiency. So again, these are going to be policies and processes that keep us operating as efficiently as possible. So one example is, do you remember the revenue recognition principle that tells us when we can recognize revenue? Well, there's actually an entire subset of the accounting profession dedicated to this. And we had a whole group of people, a revenue recognition group. And one of the processes we had in place was that they would get involved very early in the sales cycle and they would review our sales contracts to make sure we were going to be able to recognize revenue. And if not, they would kick it back and say, you have to go do something else, you have to reword this contract. By having that in place, then the higher level managers who, you know, maybe would have to review 1,000 contracts every quarter, they didn't get all the crap that was going to get kicked back anyway, right? We went through and did that QA process before it got to our constrained resource, which in this case was maybe a high level manager or a group that was smaller and had to give special permission on kind of non-standard deals. Okay, so it was a control that allowed our most constrained resources to operate more efficiently. Uphold company policies. So a lot of times you'll see a technological control that upholds the company policy. For example, at Oracle, we all had badges, you know, and you'd go beep and it would let you into the building. Our contractor badges, they were only allowed to go in the building during certain hours of the day. I think it was 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or something, right? Because the thought was the contractors didn't need to be there all the time. My badge had 24-hour access, which, you know, was a little, I guess, you know, they expected me to be able to be there 24 hours a day. And I came close to it a couple times, so, you know, maybe I wish I had had that contractor badge. But that would be the kind of technological answer. Another policy we had at Oracle was that you could only fly business class if you were senior director or above. Otherwise, you had to fly economy. And the technological control we put into place was that the system where we booked our travel, they had a record of everybody's job level, and so if you weren't at least a senior director or above, you didn't even have the option to book business class. So people couldn't violate the process because they physically on our system could not book that kind of a ticket. Okay, So those are the purpose of our internal controls and a couple of examples that hopefully made it clear. If anything's not clear, feel free to reach out to me. Come to office hours, send me a Canvas mail, or post your question on the Q&A forum, and I will get back to you with an answer. All right, see you next time.